I came across something today. And sometimes I laugh at stuff. It's not really funny, but it's just how ironic, these things are. It's just how I don't want to say mystical. It's something. You understand what I'm saying? I came across this video earlier today. Right? Mystical is far from the word. I can't really put this into words, because like I was so flabbergasted, right? I think that's a decent expression. But sometimes things can get lost in translation. But I was watching something. I was watching a video, right, of a man and a woman who went to court. And you guys can find it on YouTube. You type in baby court, you'll see it. It's baby court, Judge Bonnie. Baby court, Judge Ebony. I'm sorry. So if you type in at baby court, Judge Ebony, you'll see it comes up. And it was streamed about a month ago. And it's like you'll see husband thinks kids are too ugly to be his, right? So that's basically what it says. So the husband thinks, he thinks these kids are ugly. He's like, he walks into court and he's like, man, I'm so handsome, and these kids are not mine, and these kids are ugly, da 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 da. But they've been married for 50 years. So they've been married for 50 years. So you could only kind of sort of guess that these, or you could arrive at the conclusion that these people are probably adults. They're most likely adults, like adults, not in their 20s, maybe in their 30s, probably most likely in their 40s, at least one. You understand what I'm saying? So for 50 years they were married. For 50 years they were married, right? So now the husband, he decided he's had enough. So he decides he's going to take this situation to court because he knows for a fact that these are not his children. After 50 years. 50 years. So initially I kind of thought to myself, I was like, yo, he kind of suspected that something was up. Like, it's no way he just woke up on the 50th year and was like, oh, you know what? These kids aren't mine. Right? Because a lot of times will you nah. Okay, I'm gonna disregard that, but salute you. Thank you for being here. What's up, Black? Hey man, what's up, Leon? But yeah, for 50 years married to this woman, for 50 years, and then deciding, you know what, these kids are getting in my way. This is what he was saying. Like, these are the things that he was saying in court. And I'm smiling, even though the situation isn't funny, but it's just the irony of it and the way this guy handled it. He handled it with such grace. He handled it with an element of just almost nonchalance. Like, even though it's as if he's wasted this 50 years, it's almost as if it doesn't really matter. It's like, all right, cool. This was an obstacle that I just have to just move past and move on with my life. And I would just admire how quickly he's able to just really move on with his life. And it leads me to wonder if he really has kids out there or something, right? If there's really something going on. Because he takes his wife to court, right? And he's up there, he's telling the judge, he's like, hey, judge, these kids are ugly, they're not mine. 50 years, right? These kids are ugly, they're not my kids. There's no way these are my kids. So the judge and the people in the courtroom are really taken aback by this because they're like, whoa, what? Hold on. So you've been married to this lady for 50 years and now you decide that you're going to come to court because you want to do a paternity test to find out if you're the father or not? So boom, does the paternity test, right? And the whole time the lady's there like, oh, they're your kids, oh, and then, all right, so there was this one point where the guy was like, hey, so there was some times when some fishy stuff was going on, right? Like, I remember showing up and I remember somebody kind of leaving out the back on LDS or Mormon church. I'll answer that question in a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not familiar with both of them, to be completely honest with you. But The husband was like, yeah, it's been a few times I've come there, and there's like a car parked down the street, and somebody runs out the back door, and then they drive off. And then she's like, yo, I told you it was the repairman, right? So this is what she said to him. She's like, yeah, I told you this was the repairman. So he's like, yeah, but the guy's so nonchalant about this. It's almost as if he knew this was happening for a very long time, but he just kind of just didn't care. You know what I mean? But on the 50th year, for somehow he just inspired to go just put an end to all of this. So anyway, she's been keeping up this whole facade for 50 years. Imagine that. Imagine telling a lie with a straight face for 50 years. Imagine that. What skill do you really have to possess to be able to do that? You know what I mean? It's just not in me to really to live a lie for that long. But anyway, the judge gets to the point where the judge is ready to now read the results, right? Because the judge is really taken aback by these two really kind of like elderly people that's in her courtroom asking for a paternity test. But she did it anyway, right? Reads the first result. When it comes to such and such, you are not the father. Right? Reads the second result. When it comes to such and such, you are not the father. Reads the third result. When it comes to such and such, you are not the father. And the whole court, like, you can just see this one lady, she's in the back, just laughing hysterically, because this isn't something that you can't write this stuff. You understand what I'm saying? And it kind of leads me to really kind of imagine, like, is this really real? Did this really happen for 50 years? And how is he so nonchalant about this? Did he have a little thing on the side as well when he suspected that there was something going on? So I pose this question to each and every one of you that's watching this video. What would you do in a situation like that? I know me, I probably would not have waited 50 years to really find out. If I had an inkling, or if I had some sort of suspicion that I may have not been the person that was such and such, right? I would have probably tried to get to the bottom of it a little earlier so that I could find what's right for me, right? But when you see a situation like this is why kind of relationships get sort of like such a bad reputation, especially at a time like this, because that wasn't the only person. Because I've also seen a judge, an actual judge, that was a judge, again, a judge that was married. This guy was married for 51 years and had 2 children, 2 sons, quote unquote, with his wife. And then he found out after 51 years that he wasn't the father, even though he was saying that he was still supporting them. Right? But he's not the father. Are you kidding me? So now the judge is saying, man, listen, I really wish I did know who the fathers were. Right? That way I could sue them and get all my money back that I spent over the years. But here he is in the twilight of his life. And this judge seemed a little bit more bitter, a little bit more taken aback. Am I that therapy guy? I'm not that therapy guy. This isn't really a therapy session. This is just people kind of just being able to find sort of like the middle ground and just finding balance. And sometimes what can be a very chaotic world at times, right? So sometimes these things happen, but you just don't go off the deep end because life goes on. And what these elderly people were showing me is that life goes on after this relationship. What's your opinion on late night diarrhea? Hey, go handle it. When you gotta go, you gotta go. Written a book called God Therapy. No. Haven't written a book yet. But I'm sure that's a pretty good book. I might have to check it out myself. You know, I do have some. I haven't really downloaded anything off Audible in a while, and I'm still paying for it every month. But yeah, that just really, it's one of those things where it's like relationships don't always work out. They don't, right? You see somebody, you meet somebody, you think that this is the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life sometimes, right? Like for me, you know, I know for me, like if I'm around somebody or if I got her around, right, there's a reason why I have her around. I don't just have her around because like I don't want anything that's like meaningless, right? I don't want any meaningless connections. You understand what I'm saying? I want connections that are real. right? So if she's around, that means I kind of hold her in a higher regard than I would hold maybe most other people. I kind of keep her a little bit closer to me than I would keep most other people. How do you get over someone? Well, I think how you get over someone, I think for me, from my experience, is sort of going internal, right? And when I say going internal, sort of learning how to heal, learning how to love yourself, right? So it's easy a lot of times for people to try to go out and try to find a substitute, to try to find someone out else to replace that and fill that void, right? When maybe this is really the time for you to really embrace yourself and get to know yourself and love yourself and kind of build yourself to the point where if this does happen again, you have yourself and you're okay with being alone. I hope that kind of answers your question. Maybe it doesn't really answer it, but in order to get over someone else, I feel like you have to find yourself, right? If that makes sense. You don't get over someone else by replacing them with another person, right? Because there's something sort of internally that you need to kind of. Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate that. That's a really good question, as a matter of fact. That's a really really good question. But I'm gonna ask you guys the question again. Like, what would you do in that situation? You're with someone for 51 years, and then you find out that you are not the father. How you doing? Okay, I guess is that your name? Hello. Yeah, but I know for me, I'm gonna tell you, me personally, if I was in that situation for 51 years, let's say, all right, let's say on the fourth year, or on the fifth year, which it probably would be around that time where I started to see the kid develop. I realized maybe this kid doesn't really have many of my features. Why is this kid? I don't know. Sort of have my suspicion. Are you sure? I probably would at around that time kind of take action. But let's say I didn't take action for 50 years. 51 years. Right? And then I take that person to court. And then I find out that these kids that I've been raising until they're adults, now they're adults. Now that I have grandkids, quote unquote, and great grandkids, right? How do you really take that? Leave the woman, keep the kid. At that point, the bond is there. Leave the woman, keep the kid. Well, there definitely is a bond, right? And you're basically, at that point, you're basically the only father that they know, right? And I could just imagine how hurt the children are, right? Because it's you focusing on your feelings and the mother's feelings, like you guys are the main characters, but really and truly the children are like really the most important in this whole situation, right? And how is it that they feel? How do they feel now about their mom, right? How do they now view their mom? How do they view themselves? How do they view their father? How do they view life? Right? What does this create for these children and these grandchildren? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it's rather unfortunate though. I'm trying to think what I would do. I definitely wouldn't react like certain people that I asked today, because I kind of asked some people face to face and they kind of told me some answers and I was like, nah, I don't think that's how you handle this situation, because now you're putting yourself in a predicament where you're now throwing the rest of your life away, and whatever that situation is, now she actually really won if her intentions were to really kind of ruin you. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, in a situation like that, it would be difficult to move on. It would be difficult to move forward with life, especially at that stage where you are. But then you gotta get to the point where you just gotta accept it and just move on. Accept that this situation wasn't for you and just move forward. You know? But I thought that was rather unfortunate. Anyway, that's kind of all that I really wanted to talk about tonight, right? I just kind of wanted to talk about that situation. I thought it was really, I don't know why I laughed so much about it, because it wasn't funny, but it's just the irony behind all of it. And I just thought it was just so Crazy. I just thought it was crazy. For 50 years, you kept up the same lie. And for 50 years, this gentleman had these questions in his head. And I'm not going to say he's all the way innocent, because I know for a fact that he might have had something on the side as well. Because the way he took it, like he just took it on the chin, like, And then when he walked out of the courtroom, he was like, yo, I already have a young thing waiting on me. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you guys for joining, everyone that was here tonight. Okay, I guess. Big shout outs to you. Big shout outs to everyone else. If you guys haven't done so, subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful night. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye bye. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I mean, later today.